Welcome to Brilliance Beyond Borders with Chinwe Esemai.
Today, we have a phenomenal guest with us. Coach Brian Nunez is a Nike master trainer and the founder and owner of Fitness Never Sleeps FNS Training Center in Santa Clara, California. Please welcome the leader of the Fit, Focused, and Free movement, the master, the legend, and one of my favorite people on the planet, Coach Brian Nunez. Welcome.
Oh my, what an intro. Look at you. I just want you around all the time. That energy is amazing. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Coaching elite athletes around the world. There's so much that we can learn from you. So I'm really excited to dig in. And we will begin at the beginning. So tell us where you were born, where you grew up, and where your family's from.
I love it. So I was born in a small town called Santa Maria, California. So I'm a Californian, born and raised. I am one of 4 children. I have 3 amazing sisters. Both my parents raised me. My parents split up when I was 9 years old, but they were huge supporters of everything that I did from a young age. And so just as a young, very active young kid growing up, couldn't sit still much, what now would be as, ADD, but then didn't know it at the time, just nonstop moving. So I think with a lot of things that I experienced in my life, early on, movement, that outlet was really big for me. And so just an amazing relationship with my parents, with my sisters. And then obviously that brought me up here to San Jose, California, where I ended up playing football for San Jose State. But in a nutshell, that's where I'm from, this little small town in Central Coast, California.
So tell us when you decided to start your own business as opposed to working for someone else. Actually, before that, when did you decide on being a trainer as a profession?
My whole life, I didn't even know that being a trainer, you could really be a trainer, which is weird because I had coaches my entire life. I've been trained since I was a kid. I've been involved in sports from the age of 5 years old to the age of 22 when I was college football. And, but I never really thought of that as a profession I was pursuing. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a firefighter. So there's this movie Backdraft, and it was just what I wanted to do. And I just love this idea. I'm a firefighter. I get to work on teams. It was just my whole life since I was a kid. And growing up, there was no other profession I wanted to do. And when I went to college and played football, it was like, yeah, I'm going to do this and get my degree. But then I went to the fire academy afterwards and I got my EMT, and just was one of those paths for me that I really was excited to go down. So anyways, after I was done playing football, I was doing personal training, and just as most people do, I think a lot of people, as they start off in the fitness field, is kind of like an in-between thing. They'll do it and then maybe they kind of figure out something else. And that's kind of really where I was at. And, what I realized is that as we go longer in life, we have an idea of what we want, and then we get a little more clarity, right? We go a little bit deeper. And so what I realized is that I always wanted to help people. And when I was a personal trainer, I loved it because I wasn't working with any sport athletes. I was working with everyday athletes. I use the word athlete, very seriously because everybody's an athlete. But I loved working with moms and dads, people who never played sports before, and I saw this margin of growth of the things that they can do with their body and their mindset. And so what I realized at that point is, as I was going through the academy and EMT, after I was done with football, I was like, you know what? I realized I want to proactively help people for the rest of my life. My parents at the time were like, man, you're down this path of a firefighter. It's benefits, it's safe, it's a great long-term job. And I'm like, what is a trainer? What are you going to do? And this is, 17 years ago. Like, what is that? I don't even know what that's not even a job. And I'm like, I got to follow my gut. I love it. There's nothing that lights me up more than coaching people, empowering them to step into a whole new level of greatness. And so that was when I stopped all the fire stuff and I went full speed ahead at being a trainer. So that was my path. And I was just fully set on the proactive side, I think, of helping people. I love obviously firefighters, but it's a reactive way of helping people.
That's
when there's
true.
a problem, they reach out and they have to go out, right? And I said, I want to help
yeah.
people, but I want to do it in a very proactive way where I can go out to people whenever I want, not wait for them to be called on to me. And so, and that led me down this path of serving people all over the world.
Amazing. And how did you decide that you wanted to start your own business as opposed to working for someone else?
I don't know that I think the older I get, I realize more about how I really operate.
Mm.
Uh, to be honest, I never had that desire when I was like, oh, I'm a trainer. I want to have my own gym. I want to do those things. I come from a very safe upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
very secure, very, very, very stable on things, not massive risk. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really what I was brought up in. And it's not good or bad. It's just the environment that I was raised in. Um, so it wasn't like I want to like be an entrepreneur. It was really in a situation where I was working in an environment in the gym that I was working at before. It just, I wanted to grow. I wanted to do all these things, but there was a lot of low ceilings, not open to certain things. And I think for me, honestly, I think this is so important. Anybody who's running a team, anybody who has people, acknowledgement is such a huge aspect. Just acknowledging people where they're at and growing. And a lot of times the people that want to grow, and you have high performers who want to do stuff and they're not acknowledged, they look for that outlet of like, I got to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was just one of those situations where I wanted to grow. I wanted to push it within an organization. I honestly think I probably would have been completely fine being an entrepreneur, which is having that entrepreneurial mindset within an organization.
Yes.
Versus an entrepreneur, but
Yes.
because they weren't open to that situation, I was like, you know what, I ended up just taking a big risk in opening up, but it wasn't some massive control thing. Everything worked out for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that's really was for me. It was about, hey, I want to serve more people, and in this environment that I'm in right now is not allowing me to serve more people, which isn't fulfilling me. So therefore, I had to make a decision and say, I've got to do something else. I got to do something on my own.
Yeah, no, it's really powerful. And I think that service mindset is so apparent in everything that you do and everything that FNS does. So in your book, Elevate to Great, one of the things I love, first, it's really, you're very vulnerable. You talk about growing up and your family and all the lessons. I also think one of the most powerful things about the book as well is that you actually translate the lessons. So we all have these life experiences. Sometimes we don't learn the lessons, but I think what you do in the book is you learn the lessons and then you share them. And then also at the end of each chapter, you have the game-changing moves that people can actually take and apply. And I think owning our mistakes, that's such a powerful insight, right? I think often we go through life and I think you talk about this as well. I think you've sometimes posted about the importance of owning everything, right? And then no one and nothing can really have power over you. And that experience can't have power over you either when you actually own it. You've grown from it, you've learned from it, and you're using it to continue to evolve. So that's so powerful.
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's real, one of the most powerful things that I often remind myself or tell people is that, we are our only problem. I am my only problem. And the faster that we can truly understand that everything in our life is because of us, everything, if we can take responsibility, we can say, oh, this person said this. Yeah, but it's in our power to how we're going to react to it. Maybe we said something that maybe we said something for them to act a certain way, or we could have entered the room differently, or we could have communicated a little bit differently. If we can truly have that life of 100% ownership and responsibility, where we really have a mentality of saying, it's a different mentality when you say everything is your fault, right? A lot of people will then look at that and say, oh, that's, I'm going to get down on myself.
Blame, it becomes, a blame thing.
But it's empowering because then you also equally can give yourself the empowerment that everything can be in your solution.
Yes.
And that's ultimately what you want, because that takes full ownership of the situation, of your happiness, of your freedom, which is an inside job, and for you to really take care of whatever situation you're in. How could you have made it better? Take full responsibility. When you eliminate blame, not just for yourself, but for other people, that's where you truly become, that's one of the first big steps to becoming free.
Yeah, that's huge. A big distinction between blame and ownership. Really big distinction, and how that leads to freedom. That's huge. I love it. So, and we already talked about this, the idea of service. And I think serving your clients at such a deep level, that's a huge component of FNS. And I think it's one of the reasons FNS has been awarded so many times. Number one, not just the top gym, but number one, I think it's just how passionately and deeply you serve your clients and your athletes, as you described how everyone's an athlete. And so share with us, for business owners, business leaders, what are some of your values around serving your clients?
You know, we look at everything, you know, from our values perspective as is really, it's a few things. Number one is do the right thing, you know, be authentic. Now, really, these are my core principles and values for myself. And typically those are going to be anything that I'm a part of. So it's not like, oh, these are my values for this and these are my values for that. It's like, no, your values are, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So
Yes.
otherwise it's like you have all these split personalities on all different situations.
Right.
So for me, you know, number one is be authentic. And really that means a lot of things. One, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And be authentically us. We're not trying to, you know, be other people or copy other people. We're trying to be our own authentic voice. And so it starts with that level of authenticity of and at a very simple level, just do the right thing. Serve people. Don't rob, don't cheat, like do the right thing.
Yes.
Second thing for us from a value perspective is play with passion. Have fun, be passionate. I'm so big on this because there's nothing worse than just showing up to something day in and day out and not enjoying it. Life is way too damn short to not have that passion in what you're doing. Number three is practice what we preach. So, you know, as you know, these coaches are in the mix. They're training. I mean, we're in here, you know, this morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to be athletes on camera or coaching classes, but we're still in the fight. And that's one thing that for myself, I want to be a leader that I would want to follow. So that's somebody who practices what they preach. I hate hypocrisy. It's one of the things that, you know, drives me up the wall more than ever. So that's such a big thing for us. Consistent communication is number 4, which that is probably one of the biggest aspects of success with anything, relationships, business, constantly communicating, whether that's celebrating or whether that's giving the right level of feedback or just acknowledging. And the last one for us is to protect your team. So, you know, in our ecosystem that's online, in person, you always take care of people. There's no gossip, there's no negativity, there's no drama. You always take care of your family. And so for us, you know, it's very simple. I have a rule. It's 5 or 0. Like not, oh, this person's good at 4 of them, but they're really bad at protecting their team. It's like, no, they can't be on the team.
Right.
They're all in, all 5 or nothing. And that's one of the biggest things I wouldn't just encourage any company to have is how are they going to make their decisions? Every decision we make is based off of those values, is based off of our, you know, hey, this may be a great opportunity in the market, but we don't really feel that passionate about it. We don't feel that excited about it. Well, it'll show. The market will see that we're just doing it on us too, but it doesn't really come across.
Right.
So it's how we make all of our decisions. It's how we're going to operate. But I would recommend that every single person for their life has their own set of values, how they operate. And the best way to do this is just to give the listeners a little bit of tip on that, because it's not easy. Like, I don't even remember what our first company values were. They were something like, you know, I'm not saying these are bad, but integrity, this, that, and they were good. They were good, like stuff you put on you buy a poster and they're already on the wall. You know what I mean? They weren't like why these ones? So the biggest advice I would give to somebody is, in order to find out what you truly value most, and all of these things, those are like I value all those things, integrity, honesty, all that stuff. And it condenses into those 5 for me, is make a list of all the things you know you for sure do not want in your life. Write down, and people will write a scroll. They're like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want negativity, I don't want gossip, I don't want lying, I don't want cheating. That's good. We'll write that list down, and then circle the ones that you feel the most passionate about that you know you do not want in your life. And typically on the other side of that are going to be what you value most.
Yes.
So all of these things for me are things, the reason why those 5 was because those are things that I either personally struggled with so hard at stages of my life or I saw that in other people or companies or leaders that I did not want to have for myself and my organization. And that's why those were so important. You know, I can pick on each one of these, but just to pick on one, the consistent communication one, I grew up most of my whole life keeping everything to myself, being a closed ball, not sharing, not being vulnerable, not opening up. I wouldn't communicate. It was fake. It was a fake smile and all this. It was not real. and I didn't communicate consistently within myself or with people around me. And so I know the negative effects of not consistently communicating,
Yes.
which is why it's so important for me to do it all the time, because of all those things, I don't want to go back to the other end,
Yes.
because I know the
Yes.
pain of those. I protect those, I protect those with all of my passion and focus.
That is so powerful. A couple of things I just wanted to highlight. What you said about writing the list of the things we absolutely can't or don't want to tolerate, right? And then circling the ones we're most passionate about, and then looking at the opposite. And I think that's such a powerful exercise, because often when you ask people, what do you want? It's harder for people to say, well, here's what I want. Here's what I want. Often people know exactly what they don't want. So that's such a great way of bringing people from where we are to where we need to go. And also, when you talk about consistent communication, I think really important in terms of just really creating that connection with your clients, with your coaches, with everyone within the community. And it really does feel like a community. But the third thing you said, which I want to highlight, is the importance of pain as a motivator. And this is one of the most powerful tools of leverage that people often disregard, because, especially when people want to be positive, they only want to talk about positivity. But to your point, that's really a great leverage to get you to where you want to be in terms of positivity, to say, what happens when I don't get this right? And how would that feel? And do I want to go back there? No. And just really describing, as you were saying, growing up and knowing the pain of keeping things inside. And I think being able to gain that leverage on ourselves, that is so, so powerful.
There's a lot of bravery and courage, right? That's why it's hard.
Because it's scary.
And just to reference it back to the book, that's why it was so hard, because to have to go back and relive those painful moments.
Mm-hmm.
But the greatest lessons are learned through the pain. Winning doesn't teach you any lessons. When you win, it didn't teach you. I mean, it's you did certain things, you won, but where you really learn the lessons in life are through the losses, the fails, the pain. If you're willing to have the bravery and the courage to say, what can I learn in the situation? How could I have been better?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I take responsibility in this loss? Did I do enough, or do I want to put blame on somebody else? I've been in those situations many times. Like, oh, this coach, should have done this, or this teacher that, and it's like, I could have sat in the front row. I could have shown up a little bit more. I could have been there early, stayed a little later, right? It's that level of switching where we ultimately, that's what we want to. That's what I want to empower people, and I want to continue to keep empowering myself every single day. Is, hey, everything we want is in our control, and but it starts with that mentality of taking that ownership. So. Yeah, spot on.
And you've touched on this a little bit when you were talking about your values at FNS around having fun and being playful. And I wanted to talk about this because one of the things, and of course you are a very, being a master coach, your workouts are not easy. They're not for the faint of heart. But one of the things you tend to do is you integrate humor, dad jokes, you're rapping. You could probably pull songs from the 80s, the 90s, it doesn't matter. You're willing to do whatever it takes for athletes to have fun. So I wanted to ask you whether you've always had that playful attitude all through adulthood. Have you carried that from childhood? Or is that something you had to rediscover as an adult at some point?
It has always been inside of me. Where it got blocked was... I'll tell you where the first spot it got blocked was in, like, I've always had this playful, I liked acting, I liked doing this type of stuff. Where it got first blocked was in third grade, when I had to go give a presentation in front of the whole class. I talk about this in my book, and I was humiliated. It was like, I did this terrible presentation, and like everybody laughed at me. And from then I'm like, I'm not speaking. I don't want to talk in front of anybody. So imagine, I think that now to this kid, right? My daughter, she's 7 years old. She'll shouldn't be in third grade, right? Like, imagine this. I think of now, I see her, she's excited, she plays. Imagine something happens, and then for like 15 years, she doesn't want to talk at all. Like, this passion inside is stifled. And that's really what happened to me, and then, so I felt this level to protect myself, because I didn't want to be laughed at. I didn't want to put myself out there. And so I think it's always been in there. And ultimately, and I met with coaches and different things along the way that helped bring that back out, that playfulness, that joyful. I like having fun. I always say I'm forever going to be a 20-year-old, you know, like I'm forever going to be that, like, just young, playful guy. It doesn't matter how old I am. And I think that's the youthful side of me that I want to have. So I think it has always been there. I think I got caught up in really caring what people think, which I know a lot of people can relate to and attest to. And especially I did. And I've been like that at certain stages of my career too. Oh man, you're a master trainer. Oh, man, you're this. Oh, you've won these awards. Oh, you better start acting like an adult. Oh, you got to change this, change your look. And I've gone through so many of these things, just like we do as kids, right?
Yes.
I mean, one week in 8th grade, I was dressing like hip hop. Next week, I'm dressed like a skater. The next week, I'm just like, you know, so you try so much to fit in, and it's good. Sometimes it's good. You got to wear these different jackets to see which one.
To see which you love and which fits, right?
Exactly. And then ultimately you realize whatever one you own the most, that's the one that fits the best. You know, it's not what other people see would tell you to wear. And so I think me, you know, really being at the stage where I'm at right now, I feel so comfortable who I am, who I'm not taking things personal, want everybody to win. I think that's one of the biggest keys, is that I genuinely want people to win. Whether you're with me or you're not with me, whether we were together or not together, I still want you to win. Because I think that brings the whole nother level of confidence of where I'm at. And so I like that playful side of me, and it's training, a little bit of entertainment. And I understand from an empathetic side, right? It's important on the other end. If it was just so like rigid all the time, you'd be like, dude, this is like military, you know? And it works for some people, but that wouldn't even work for me. And so I appreciate, you know, whether people are fake laughing or laughing at me, I'll gladly jump on the grenade in order to give people a good time. So I appreciate it.
No, I think it's awesome. And even there have been studies that show that it's one of the great ways of entrenching habits, right? The Atomic Habits book talks about it, and a lot of studies around how play really helps form great habits, big or small. So I think it's powerful. And no, I think it's always funny, you know, even when it's a dad joke.
Everyone loves a dad joke. Yeah.
Like falling over in class, but it's awesome. It really it makes it even more powerful to train. So one other question for you: what drives you? Tell us what drives you. I think some of it has come through in the conversation, but what drives you to do all the things you do?
You know, the first thing is myself. There's a lot of things I think that my daughter drives me. To be a better leader, to be a better father, you know, to be a better husband for my wife. But really what drives me every day, and what we talked about was, you know, we talked about the power of pain, is that I know what it's like to be on the other side of trying to be all the right things to all the wrong people. I know what it's like to try to act like Mr. Cool and be lonely and look like you got it all figured out on the outside, but you're super lonely and disconnected on the inside. I know what it's like to not have those quality relationships with other people, because I didn't have a quality relationship with myself. So what drives me every day definitely starts with me. I want to be happy. And it's as simple as that. You know, it's not, I want to help millions of people all over the world. I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great friend. I want to be a great father. All those things are great accomplishments, even helping and serving people. Like, those are all byproducts of something. But for me, what drives me is happiness. I am now more clear, more focused than ever in my life. I want to be happy. Like, I want to do things that make me happy. I want to be around people that make me happy. I just want to be happy. And when you know what it's like on the other end when you're not happy, especially when you're faking it, I think that I have more empathy and sympathy for people who are great at marketing, that they got it all figured out, and who are suffering inside. That's worse, because you feel like you need to keep that going.
Yes.
You know? Because even though that's not the case, you really got to break the pattern. So it's a very simple question that I really hope I really hope that this conversation of happiness as the driver of success, the true driver of success, is talked about more, because ultimately that's why we want or do any things that we do is we just want to live a happy life. So that's what I'm driven by more than ever right now. It's very simple. If it doesn't make me happy, if it doesn't make me healthy, then I don't do it.
Right.
And it's the easiest audit that I can do to any situation.
Yes. And you talk a lot about auditing and assessing and making a decision, and then intention, impact. It's just so powerful. I was also going to ask you, for people who may be struggling with, whether it's fitness goals or any goals, creating sustainable success, what are some of the thoughts that you can share with people around building great habits around fitness and health, and then over time creating sustainable results? Because I think that's one of the things also that FNS prides itself on. You say, don't be a one-hit wonder. Anyone can lose a couple of pounds, now keep it up, right? So yeah. I would love to hear your thoughts around sustainable health.
Yeah, it's sustainability. First and foremost, we need to download the software of longevity, right? So we really need to say, hey, what does our lifestyle look like? That needs to be the focus first. Marks are good, but the marks, these are just little mini checkpoints along the way of the macro of what you're trying to build. Mm-hmm. So having goals, short-term goals, it's all important because it lets you know that if you're on the right track, you're on the wrong track. But the biggest thing I would say is, number one, is get really clear on what you want and why you want it. Number one, mm-hmm. Because without clarity, you're taking a lot of action, but it's not strategic action.
Right. You're
doing stuff that it could be because your friend did this and this person's doing this, and we get blindsided by a lot of opportunities. There's no strategy. So one biggest thing I always tell people is you want to be a strategist, not an opportunist. An opportunist just grabs whatever's on the wall. Strategist says, I know who I am. I know what I want. Now let me find the things that are in line with this. So that would be the first thing, is have some clarity, then have some conviction and saying, hey, do you believe it? Do you believe that you really want this? And then start small. And the commitment, and the biggest aspect of commitment is just saying the things that you said you were going to do. That's the greatest way you can increase confidence right there.
Sure.
Because when you do that at such a small level, it's the compound effect. It adds up, it adds up, it adds up. And oftentimes when we see big success happen too fast, it's deceiving. Mm-hmm. Because it was either lucky or we rushed the hell out of the process. Mm-hmm. And now that creates a mentality that's just the way things are going to happen. So I think really keeping it simple, setting yourself for success, and then celebrating every little small win. Yeah. People want to lose 20 pounds, but they don't realize in order to lose 20, you got to lose one first.
What?
You got to celebrate the next one, right? And I say it every single day in the workout, right? Hey, what's the most important set? The one we're doing right now, not the one we just did. Good, great, you finished it. It's all done. What's the most important day? What's the most important week of our life? This next week is the most important week of your life. Today's the most important day. What you did yesterday is irrelevant, whether you were the MVP of the world or you lost, and I think sports are such a great example of this, right? Yes. We all celebrate the Lakers. Oh my gosh, amazing. And then the next day it's like, all right, next season. It doesn't last long. It's like, yeah, it's done. You're not going to be like, some people do, but you shouldn't be for the next 5 years. Oh my God. It's like, yeah, it's done. It's over. So keep it real simple. And that's ultimately the biggest way that we can set ourselves up for sustainable success. And I think the last thing I would say with this is, surround yourself with people who also share that same type of mentality. Yes. You got to find a team. You are who you surround yourself with. You are the company you keep. So it's really important that your tribe speaks the same language and speaks the same support that you need.
Absolutely. So I would love to acknowledge you, Coach Brian. I am beyond honored and humbled to be a part of your tribe. I am so grateful for all you're doing, serving athletes around the world, here in the US, all over the world. The authenticity, the passion, the love, the leadership, leading by example. It's so powerful. And I am incredibly grateful that I've had the opportunity to train with you. So thank you for everything you do, Coach.